Yo, what is going on, everybody? This is Mysticall, and today I'm bringing you a hopefully quick guide on how to deal with interrupts, fake cast, juke, whatever you want to call it, and let's just get right into it. So what is fake casting? What is juking? It is basically the skill, because it is a skill that when you're casting, you intentionally stop your casting to bait out interrupts, so hopefully you can free cast, free heal. Now this goes for any healer, any caster, DPS. It doesn't matter what you are. It is important to have this skill to get higher in PvP, higher increase your rating. And as you get higher MMR, the interrupts they get faster and they get more get more predictable. So that's good and bad because you know that some people are only going to interrupt when they need to. You know, they're not going to waste any interrupts, which a lot of people do at lower MMR. So first of all, I'm going to say as a DPS, if you are a DPS, you should be trying to kick casters, healers on important heals, polymorphs to stop crowd control, clones, chaos bolts, but try and do so at separate times. It's also important to know how many schools of casting that people have. Like mages, if you kick a polymorph on a frost mage, they'll still be able to do damage. Likewise, if you kick a frost bolt, they'll be able to get a polymorph off because it's part of the arcane. With priests, they have holy and shadow, so if you kick a clarity of will, they're still going to be able to shadow men. So that's really important to note. I think boomies have two schools. No, they used to. They don't. I don't think they do anymore. Destruction warlocks, if you kick incinerate, they can still chaos bolt. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm pretty sure that's true. I know chaos bolt is off of is a different school. I think it's fire. Anyway, let's get back into it. So just try and kick certain spells, the important spells, and try and do so at different percentages so that people are almost like faking themselves. Try and do that the best you can. Now, as a caster slash healer, why is this important to do? Well, like I said before, if you're trying to get a polymorph and you're not juking and you're just getting kicked on like every polymorph, it'll be easier for the healer to avoid it, and you won't ever be able to get it off ever because they're just going to kick you every time. So it's important to be able to juke and fake cast, and in my opinion there are three ways to be able to do this. I personally pride myself in being able to fake cast a lot of people. I love it. I think it's a skill, and it's definitely rewarding as a healer in particular because you can free cast after you juke all the interrupts minus crowd control and death grips and stuff like that, but that's besides the point.
I can't rally.
Root them both, root them both.
Okay, I juke both. No, I juke both. I promise. I'm okay.
Bolting monk.
It is rewarding and is a great skill to have. So the first thing I recommend is that you download the add-on Omnibar, Interrupt Bar, whatever your preference is. Omnibar, basically you could track any cooldown in the game. Now I have a separate add-on for that. It's called Nameplate Cooldown. That's just because I don't want to be looking at the bottom of my screen looking for cooldowns. I know Cedo uses it, so obviously it's not a bad add-on. I just prefer nameplate cooldowns. Now Omnibar, it can track anything. I have it tracking every interrupt in the game. If you do not have this add-on, I highly recommend it. It is useful in knowing when you juked and knowing when there's a kick coming up. So please download the add-on. It's really important. Now, I mentioned there are three ways you could deal with juking. The first way is pretty simple, actually. It's moving. Besides a Mistweaver, because we have Soothing Mist that we can, move around and cast, obviously. If you are a Resto Shaman and you're trying to cast a Healing Wave, and you're casting Healing Wave, you just move. Just stutter step. Just stutter step and just make it quick little movements over and over and over and over, and you'll be able to bait out interrupts. Now, if you know that the DPS are switching it up and you're halfway through the cast, it obviously depends on the situation. If you need the heal, go for the heal. But if you don't, try and bait out an interrupt going halfway. Keep trying to push it a little bit, and then keep trying to go 80% and just keep trying. Now, if you know they're fast at interrupting, just little stutter steps, and that's fine. It works like magic. You'll get quite a few DPS between 2k and 2.2 MMR where they try and go for the fastest kick, but if you're faster and you can move faster, you'll be able to bait out some kicks. Now the second way that I found to be quite useful, it's a 2-for-1. You can either hit escape or you can use a stop casting macro. And if you don't know what a stop casting macro is, it's this right here. It's just a short little, I could even get rid of these. Now in the previous, maybe it was 7.2.5, a stop casting macro wasn't working too well for monks. I don't know for anything else. It just wasn't working. So I put 2 stop casting in there. There's no reason. I just put 2 in there. Stop casting or hitting escape. So if I am casting and I hit escape, it'll stop. However, I have tiny hands. I have really tiny hands. So it's a struggle for me to keep hitting escape over and over again. So stop casting macro for me is good. But if you have a small keyboard or you have big hands, you can definitely hit escape. I hope there's no dirty comments about that. I prefer stop casting against people that, you know, you're getting a feel for their interrupts, how fast they interrupt, you know, because usually people, they do the same thing over and over, and you're playing the same team over and over again. You get a feel for what they do. So if they kick fast, I'm going to Soothing Mist, and I'm just going to stop casting over it. Just in the beginning, you know, if I need the heal, I'll put out Enveloping, and then I'll stop cast. Now, if you're a Druid and you're regrowthing, you can just keep hitting it over, just in case you're trying to follow along. This is my stop cast. You could see me pressing it, and it's just a good way. It's primarily what I use to interrupt. No, I'm okay. I promise.
I can't slow anything.
I can.
And the third way, which is quite advanced, but it's definitely something that if you can get used to, you will be able to juke everybody. And this is what I do, honestly, to juke 90% of the people that I play against. And it's using abilities that are off the global cooldown to interrupt your healing. And I know that sounds a little bit complicated, but I'm going to try to explain it the best that I can. So let's say I'm a Mistweaver, because I am, and I'm using Soothing Mist, but I have two Mongos on me, a Death Knight and a Monk, and they both have their kicks available. I don't have Vim and Vigor anymore because I'm below 80%. What can I do? Well, I'll cast Soothing Mist, and then I'll use Fortifying Brew. Now, what did that do? Basically, I was using Soothing Mist, and I used an ability off the global cooldown to interrupt my heal now, and it forced a lot of kicks because people really don't expect it. So what is it? So how can you check? Basically, just use your ability, and anything that doesn't move, doesn't have the little timer, the little thing, is off the global cooldown. And you could use that to, I think this might be a monk only thing, but you could basically do the same. I know for druids, correct me if I'm wrong, you could be using regrowth and then dash is off the global cooldown. So if there's somebody on you and you're trying to fake cast and enveloping or you're regrowthing, you can dash away, right? It's off the global cooldown. Shaman, I think you use Ghost Wolf. I don't know too much about Pallies. You could probably Freedom, right? You could probably like Flash of Light, Freedom, and discs. You could. I'm not too sure about discs. So, and you could also do this as a caster too. You don't need to be a healer. Just find something that's off the global cooldown and try and use it to interrupt and see if that works. It might be a Mistweaver only thing, but the same principle applies. You know, basically, you're trying to use abilities that are off the global cooldown to stop you from to stop your cast and make sure it's instant. Another example that I use is I start Soothing Mist and then I use Thunder Focus Tea. It's instant, stops my casting. It's insane. It gets a lot of kicks too. It's really good. And that's the advanced way. You just have to get used to it. It's a lot of practice. But if I'm a little thing that I do, if I don't have any healing spheres and I don't have wall anymore and I don't have Mana Tea because Mana Tea's off the global cooldown, because our globals are 0.5 seconds except for Soothing Mist, I will normally Soothing Mist. I'll put a statue down. I mean, that's outplayed right there. I love it. I'm using the macro right here. It's the cursor macro, @cursor macro. It works. Trust me, it definitely works. Mainly because of how Mystery Globals work. That's why it works. And let me just explain it again. You're using an ability that's off the global cooldown to stop your healing and try and bait out some kicks. So again, Soothing Mist, and I'll use a Healing Sphere. Stops my cast, heals me a little bit if I'm out of Vim and Vigor range, and hopefully baits out some kicks. So what happens when you get kicked? The best players in the world get kicked. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I get kicked. BlizzCon champions get kicked. I got kicked by 1,500 players on the first day of the season. I mean, everyone gets kicked. So, but how you handle it is what separates you from better players and worse players. So, let's say I'm kicked in the middle of the map. I'm playing against Cupid. Hard counter for Monk. So, you know, you don't go in with too high hopes. But let's say you get kicked by the Hunter. The priest is right here. This is the priest. This is the Hunter. And you got the ret. The ret's right here. The ret is coming in hot. The ret wants to hodge you. You just got kicked. You got the incap off, but you just got kicked. But the ret's coming in hot. You can still use Chi Torpedo to get away. Right? When you're kicked, you try your best to avoid any follow-up crowd control and make them work for it. You know, they're gonna get it. The mages will get the polys, the rets will get the hodges. I mean, it's just how it is. But you make them work for it. Don't make it easy. You don't stand in the middle of the map when you're kicked. Don't stand right here when you're kicked and just stay. All right, hands off the keyboard. I got interrupted. There's nothing I can do because you could do so much. The main thing that you want to do when you're kicked is you want to reposition yourself so the enemy team does not get follow crowd control on you. And what does that mean? So I know every healer has a mobility. Monks, you could use Chi Torpedo. Shaman, you could use your Tornado, gust of air, gust of wind. Druids, you can dash. You can also go different forms. I don't know if you can Displacer. Sorry, I think you can't. I don't think you can. Pallies, I'm pretty sure you could Freedom Horse. And I'm missing one. Priests, Disc Priests, I hate you because you have two schools. You got two schools of healing, man. You can just sit here and just eat kicks all day. And Holy Priest, you can Greater Fade. So what you do when you're interrupted is what can separate you from being an okay healer to being a great healer. Because if I'm kicked, and it's been a lot in my recent videos, and I hope you guys are watching it. If I'm kicked and one of my DPS is in trouble, I will incap the DPS that we aren't targeting to stop damage for like 4 seconds while I'm interrupted. So during a time where they should be able to get cooldowns, they don't because I can incap. And what does that mean? So if I'm kicked and the Hunter is, doesn't have a trinket and he is using True Shot Aura, I'll incap him if I'm kicked. And then I'll roll away. And if the pally's coming in hot, I'll port away. I do all of that while kicked. Like I couldn't heal that entire time, but I was still able to do something. I was able to make an impact on the arena, on the match, even though I'm kicked. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please let me know. I really do think that this is a really important skill to have. I've been putting off making this video for quite a bit. I'm kind of disappointing myself for it, but I'm glad I'm finally doing it. And I hope this helps somebody. Remember, 3 things you can do. You can use a stop casting. You could hit escape. You could just move while you're casting. So just stutter step. You can hit escape if you have big hands. If you're comfortable with that, that's fine. You could use a stop casting, or you could use abilities off the global cooldown to interrupt your healing to beat out kicks. I do that a lot. I mainly do it with Thunder Focus Tea, and if people are focusing you, I'll cast, I'll wall, and then I'll cast again Healing Elixir, cast again Healing Elixir. Yeah. I also, if I don't have any of that, I use a GH Serpent statue. You could also use it with Mana Tea. If you're a healer, use your mobility while kicked to get in a better position than what you were before. Right? If you're overextended before and you got kicked, try and get behind a pillar, set up for when you are out of the lockout. Casters, try and juke. Know how many schools you have. Know how many schools you have. If you're a mage and you're a Frost Mage and you get kicked on Frost, you should be casting a Polymorph. You know, there's always something you can be doing. If you're a Priest and you get kicked on Clarity of Will, start casting a Shadow Mend. If you're a Destruction Warlock, correct me if I'm wrong. If you get kicked on Incinerate, start casting Chaos Bolts. It's just, you know, just try and bait out kicks to like further your game. You know, try to help you and your team. And that's pretty much it. I hope somebody learned something. This is a really good skill to have. It is really useful when you get higher MMR. Maybe not so when you're low, but when you get higher MMR, it is definitely important. And that is pretty much it. I hope everyone enjoyed, and I'll see you later.